Something major is brewing that could change the lives of over 70 million Americans who rely on monthly benefits, and most people have no idea it's coming. This isn't about a cost of living adjustment or something automatic. It's something new. Lawmakers are actively working on proposals that could increase your benefits in a way that hasn't been done in decades. This is about getting more money in your hands, starting not this year, but next year and beyond. And some early signs show it could be very real. The details are still being worked out, but what's coming could be one of the biggest shifts for people receiving Social Security retirement, SSDI, SSI, survivors, spousal, and even VA benefits. If you're watching closely, you'll learn exactly what kind of changes are being discussed, how much extra money might be added to your check, when it could happen, and most importantly, what you can do now to stay ahead of it. We're not just talking about some small adjustment. This could mean hundreds of dollars more per month for many beneficiaries. And I'm going to walk you through all of it in plain, easy to follow terms. This is all based on real reports, government discussions, leaked memos, and even budget drafts that have surfaced in recent weeks. In fact, several Senate and House committee members have now confirmed that they are exploring a new supplemental benefit model for older and lower income Americans who are falling behind. They say the traditional COLA formula isn't keeping up with real costs anymore. Groceries, rent, gas, and even utilities are all up way more than the official inflation rate, and seniors are getting squeezed. So lawmakers are now being forced to act. This isn't just about political pressure, it's about economic survival for tens of millions of people. To be very clear, these changes would not happen this year in 2025. What they're aiming for is the next benefit cycle starting in early 2026. That might feel far away, but the decisions and laws that would make these new increases possible are already being debated now. Some proposals would need to be passed as part of the federal budget in the fall, while others might be voted on separately before the year ends. What matters is that we are right now in the middle of the crucial phase where the details are being negotiated. So, why is this happening now? There's a growing recognition that Social Security has not been keeping pace with real expenses, especially for those over the age of 65. According to a recent report from the Senior Policy Institute, the average senior on Social Security has lost nearly $4,000 in purchasing power since 2019. Think about that. $4,000 of value just vanished because prices went up faster than your check. That has led to a wave of pressure on lawmakers to go beyond the COLA and consider a flat benefit boost, a needs based supplement, or even a hybrid model that adds extra for those who are most vulnerable. Right now, the leading ideas being discussed include a supplemental inflation relief benefit that would provide an extra $200 per month to all beneficiaries, regardless of income. This idea was originally floated years ago, but it's now back on the table with more support than ever. Another proposal, backed by some members of Congress, is a tiered system where lower income or older beneficiaries, such as those over age 75, could receive anywhere from $100 to $300 more per month. And there's also talk of updating the CPI formula to the CPIE model, which better reflects real senior expenses like housing and medical care. Keep in mind, these are projections and draft proposals. Nothing is finalized yet, but they are gaining traction, and that alone makes them worth paying attention to. If the supplemental $200 benefit were approved, that would mean nearly $2,400 more per year for every person on Social Security. That's enough to cover a few months of groceries, 2 or 3 rent payments, or even help pay down debt. For many, that's life changing. So, when would we know if any of this is actually going to happen? That's the key part. Right now, the next federal budget is being negotiated. The draft framework is expected to be unveiled in early fall, likely around mid September. If these benefit boosts are included in that budget or attached to reconciliation legislation, we could see an official vote before the end of the year. That means the earliest you'd see an increase would be January of 2026. But don't be surprised if the details shift over the next few months, especially as inflation numbers, election politics, and public pressure all come into play. Let's break this down with a quick example. Imagine someone currently receiving $1,300 a month in Social Security benefits. If the supplemental $200 proposal becomes law, that check would go up to $1,500 monthly. That's a 15% jump, far above any COLA we've seen in recent years. And if you're someone living on a fixed income, you know just how far even an extra $50 or $100 can go. It's not just numbers on a screen, it's food in the fridge, gas in the tank, or medicine you need. Of course, everything we're talking about here is still subject to change. These are proposals, not guarantees. The final outcome depends on what Congress decides in the coming weeks. And while many lawmakers support these changes in theory, others are raising questions about the cost and how it would be funded. Some want to pay for it by closing corporate tax loopholes, while others are proposing shifting funds from less efficient programs. There's even talk of using tariff revenues to offset the cost, especially with recent changes in trade policy. I know that many of you are frustrated. You've been hearing about fixes and boosts for years, and yet here we are still waiting. You might be thinking, why should this time be any different? That's a fair question. The truth is, we are closer now than we've been in a very long time. The difference this time is that the pressure is bipartisan and the proposals are relatively simple and targeted, making them easier to implement without overhauling the entire system. So here's where we stand right now. Lawmakers are actively debating new benefit increases for Social Security recipients starting in 2026. These could take the form of a $200 monthly supplement, a tiered age based boost, or updates to the inflation formula. The decisions are being made now, with draft budgets due in early fall and potential votes by the end of this year. The changes would not impact your current check this year, but they could bring meaningful increases starting in just a few months after that. And here's something else that's starting to gain traction. Behind the scenes, there's a growing push in Congress to revise how benefit formulas are calculated for seniors who retired early versus those who waited. Some lawmakers believe the current structure penalizes lower income workers who couldn't afford to delay benefits past their early 60s. That may not sound like a big shift, but the effect could be major. If passed, it would mean some early retirees could see a one time boost applied to their monthly payments to reflect years they spent earning below the national average. It's a correction that's long overdue, and it's getting bipartisan interest. Meanwhile, there's a separate effort picking up steam to reevaluate spousal and survivor benefits. This is particularly important for millions of women who may have taken time out of the workforce to care for children or aging parents. The proposal would raise the minimum spousal benefit to ensure it more closely reflects today's cost of living, even for those who didn't work enough to qualify for full benefits on their own. If this gets folded into any larger Social Security reform, it would mark a significant step toward equity within the program. These kinds of behind the scenes negotiations and proposals are why it's so important to stay plugged in, not just to the headlines, but also to what's being quietly introduced and discussed in committee hearings. Because it's often these subtle adjustments, these line items added late in the process, that wind up making a huge difference in people's lives. So if you're counting on Social Security,